Hello, Weebs and Normies. Welcome to the Anime Club. I'm Graham.
And I'm George.
All right, George, we have got ourselves the openings, closings, and review for Gurren Lagann. It's all blue today. We've had probably a week of blue and green UI. This is the blue UI that we're moving over to eventually, and moving away from the TGC green and embracing the Anime Club blue. The TGC being the game club, for anyone who doesn't know. But
Yes.
yeah, so we're going to watch these. We're going to do the opening for season 1 and then the closing. And then we'll do the opening for, I guess, season 1, part 1 or part 2. And then going and doing the closing for that. And then we'll get into a review.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
I've heard literally, like with all our other shows, like the first 3 seconds of each one of these. So being able to finally hear how the whole thing is will be good.
True. Yes. Yeah. We haven't watched any of these openings and closings while we watch the series. This is our first time. Well, I've technically seen them like a decade ago. So it's been a long time for me. But yeah, we haven't seen anything. So we always leave them for the end. And yeah, it'll be good to check them out.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Very good.
The old crew.
The old crew. Man, young Simone. Wow.
I love the animation.
Look at this shot.
I know, it's so good. Our boy.
Good old Kamina, man.
Let's go!
Of course. Oh, dang.
Oh, interesting.
Man, so crazy seeing everyone young again.
Yeah, right?
Viral. My boy Viral, he came through in the end.
True.
Dang, the transformation animations were always so good.
Yeah, they're so sick.
So good. Wow. Look at this, surrounded by beastmen.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. That was one of the final moves they did.
Yeah.
Wow, it shows the whole crew there.
Yeah. Before you even know some of them.
Yeah, right?
Okay. That was good. That was a good song.
Hype, man.
Yes.
Yeah. I noticed
Very
in the
much
background
so.
of one of the shots there was a yellow kind of UI type of thing to show the spiral power. That didn't show up until the last part of the last half of the show, the final 25% of the show in the ship. So
Sure.
that was kind of an interesting thing to see. But yeah, this is part of the reason why we don't necessarily watch the OPs, because especially OPs of this era, they show the whole cast, a lot of similes of what's going to happen and stuff. No, I don't want to see
they
that,
showed
man.
Rosu. We would have known about Rosu episode 1.
Yeah.
Before he even showed up at all. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
It's possible that
it was good.
It's possible that maybe they fill in more characters as it goes along, but at least at some point we would have known okay, XYZ character's going to join in and stuff. So,
Yeah. I mean, this is a great song. I really like the guitar riff.
Yeah, true.
No idea what the lyrics were saying. The singer's voice was nice though. If I have to rate it, 5 being average, I'd say this is well above average at a 7. This might go up depending on how the rest of the songs go, but I'll start with a 7 on this one. Give myself a little bit of breathing room both ways.
Okay.
But we'll see. I might make it go up more or down some depending on how the other ones rate.
Interesting. Well, you didn't see Yoko clearly, so this one's clearly an 8.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Actually, you know what? Never mind. There was no Nia in this. This goes down to a 7.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're right though. No Nia.
No Nia.
Interesting, because they showed everyone else except her.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So they held something back when they showed it off there.
Yeah. True.
Okay. Interesting.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So 7 for both of us. All right. Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. Well, let's check out
go to the ending.
Yeah, the closing now. Okay.
Yes.
Oh wait, we just found out there's actually like ending or opening 1.5 where it slightly updates the opening. So we're gonna check that out as well.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Oh.
Wow.
Chose that.
Big difference.
Oh,
here.
and we get this shot too.
Right, because this is the post Kamina era, but still young Simon.
That's right. Poor Kamina.
Yeah.
Rip. Rest in peace, man.
Yoko's still here though, so this is still.
She's
good.
hot. I'll give you that. But
And there's Nia. This is
Okay.
instantly 8 out of 10, maybe more.
Oh my gosh. Just 8. I'm surprised it's not a 10
That's
out
true.
of 10
You're right.
for
It's
you.
10 out of 10, bro. It's 10 out of 10.
Okay, that shot's new. This shot's new.
Yeah, that's new because the generals were the main focus, not so much Viral anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Dang. There's such
Oh.
high. Oh.
Oh. Oh, that's cool.
cool.
Will this scene be different? No,
Dang.
this one's the same. Okay. Oh,
Oh,
she's so
she's here to
cute.
replace Kamina. Oh, Kamina's gone. Oh, but we get the rest of the crew. Okay.
Right. Interesting.
Oh.
Oh, interesting shot
Dang.
too. Okay.
Okay. That was cool. I like those changes. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't even realize there were changes like that. Wow.
That's some decent effort, right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a drastic change. It wasn't like a brand new like mid-season refresh, but still like
Right.
good stuff.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
They didn't have to go so freaking extra with that, right? So.
Yeah. I would have, knowing that Kamina dies and everything, if they kept that same opening with him on there,
Right.
I wouldn't even thought about it at
wouldn't
all,
think
right?
twice
It's just
about
like,
it,
well,
yeah.
he's still a pivotal character and influential, even though he's dead. But
Yeah.
they took the effort. That's cool.
It is cool. All right, now
Okay.
actually to the ending.
Yes, that's right.
Very stylized
Yeah.
right away. Oh, I hate everything about this song.
Really, I was about to say the opposite. I really like this song.
I hate it. Interesting. It's so understated.
Huh. Yeah.
It's just like all the things that Simon has casually destroyed and killed.
True.
No problem. Oh, there's their gunman in there too, actually.
Yeah.
Oh wow, they showed off. This is the episode 1 closing. They're
Dang.
showing all of those.
Oh, those
gunmen there.
Beastmen too. Gotta get the
He
Yoko
dominated
shot, of course.
these girls as well.
Oh my gosh, dude. This freaking guy.
Interesting.
Huh. They're showing more of the crew here than they showed in the opening.
Right.
At least the first version of the opening. There's like a band this reminds me of, especially the singer's voice. Oh, this all leads to spiral power. That's a cool shot.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember which band it is, but his voice sounds so much like someone
kind
like
of a
band I know.
gravelly, raspiest kind of voice.
Yeah, and it's not like punk rock, this song, but it's like a little bit like that. It's gonna bother me until I remember it. If I remember it in the course of recording this, I'll say it, but I might not.
That's funny. Yeah, I would give this one a 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10. Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like the song at all. It was actively annoying. The visuals were
We have wildly different tastes in music.
yes, very much so. The visuals were like pretty boring. Like it was nice to see all the characters. Yoko's hot, but I mean the spiral at the end is pretty cool. But
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think here. The song was good. I actually liked the song. The visuals, I feel like, I mean, I haven't seen like a whole lot, but from what I've seen so far, it seems like the ending visuals are always more like, they're always less, I guess. Maybe not so for Jujutsu Kaisen now that I'm thinking about it. But I don't know. I don't know what. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're right. The endings usually have less animation. It's more like stills or scenes or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, than action.
Yeah. For an ending, I didn't expect like a whole lot of animation, but it was still like, it is what it is. For me, it's still above average. I wouldn't go as low as a 4, but I'll give it a 6. I still like the opening more.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah.
Okay. All right,
Very
so
good.
on to the opening, unless there's a 1.5 ending for this. On to
True.
opening 2.
Okay, very good. Whoa.
Really summarizing all the season 1 stuff. Wow.
Yeah. Hey, there they are. Okay.
There they are, the happy couple, George.
I have some stuff to say about that in a moment.
Oh boy. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's a cool shot. We didn't actually get that in the anime.
That's sweet.
Dang.
There he is.
Oh, Kamina at the top.
The man, the legend.
Oh. Wow, I'm glad we did not watch that. Talk about spoilers, dude. Holy crap.
Yeah, wow. Oh, it shows all the combos.
Oh, what a shot.
That's so
It's like
cool.
the inverse of with the Beastman, kind of.
Oh, look at that.
Dang.
It even shows the Spiral King there. That would have been such
Yeah.
a spoiler, dude.
Yeah. Oh, I like that shot of young Simone to older Simone.
Oh, interesting. It's like walking the road of memories.
Yeah.
That's pretty freaking sick.
Up to the spiral galaxy. Okay.
I
Wow.
think this was so sick, but holy frick, I would not want to have watched this before.
Yes,
Going
100%.
through it. Oh boy, that would have spoiled so much.
There was a lot of spoilers there.
Yeah.
The song was the same. I like the song. The visuals, I feel like in this one were better than the other opening.
Yeah.
I to be honest, and I think I'm not alone in this. The latter half of the season is just better than the first half.
For sure.
Wow. No, this is really good. If I gave the first opening a 7, I have to give this one an 8.
Okay.
This was better. This was better. It was really good, actually.
Yeah. I would say so.
Wow.
I give it about 8 as well. Yeah, I wish it did have a different song, but the visuals are really, really good, so it's hard to complain.
For as much as they spoil too, the sequence there with Nia turning into the anti-spiral version was cool. That was a cool shot.
Very cool.
I'm glad we didn't watch it again.
All of this is so cool after the fact.
Yes, exactly.
Very retrospective.
That's right. Yeah, the shots with where the giant gun Gurren Lagann or whatever, Gurren whatever
coming over the
behind.
planet.
Yes, yeah, that was a sick shot too.
Sick, yeah. What a spoiler that would have been, though. Holy
yes.
crap! It's like, oh, it's gonna get that big because it's like right at the beginning of the second half, and so it's like we don't know they're going to space even yet. So
yeah. It
even shows the like the 3D model type enemies, and we haven't even seen them in the show yet. Oh, dude, what a freaking spoil this would have been. Awful.
Yes.
Awful.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't watch it. After the fact, really cool.
Really
if we'd watch it beforehand, though, no way, man.
No thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, very
but
good.
I like that they showed, like I said, it's like not the inverse, really, but it's like they showed the shot with all the beastmen kind of like spinning around them. Now it's the same shot again, but it's with the anti-spiral enemies. That was cool.
And stuff. Yeah. Really cool. All right. Well, if there's not a 1.5 version of this, we're going to check out the ending.
Sure.
We'll see.
What do you rate it, though? What's your rating on this?
I say the same. Yeah, 8 out of 10 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Very good.
All right, let's check it out. Very similar visual style.
Art style. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, it's so similar. They're just going in a different way.
Yeah. Buta's still there.
Yeah.
We just need some trumpets, and this is like ska music. I don't know if you've heard much ska music, but
I wonder if this is the same band.
maybe. The voice sounds a little different.
True. That's cool, showing all the planets there.
Yeah. This was a good song too, man. The songs have all been good. You don't like this song either? Oh man. Is this English?
There's some English in there.
This is very Scottish.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's a sick shot.
Okay.
Season
That's
1
pretty cool.
or the first half was him looking at the sky. Now he's him looking at the universe, the spiral
universe.
galaxies.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't know why you don't like these songs, dude. I've liked them all.
Don't care for this song either. Yep, this is another 4 out of 10.
Really, I think this is my favorite song of all of them, even more so than the intro.
Really?
Yeah, I like kind of like hype up songs. I have to be in like certain moods to listen to like different things of music, but I listen to all the genres of music. Like, I don't think there's a genre of music. Well, stuff like mumble rap and stuff like that, like freaking terrible.
I don't have like particular preferences per se. Good music is good music. I don't really care. I just don't think this was good music. It sounded a little bit annoying. I like ska. You know, ska is good. I've heard some ska stuff here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wasn't vibing it.
Ska music is very much like just drums and like just it goes fast.
Yeah.
Fast beat. Yeah, no, I liked it. I wish I could understand what they were saying. I like to listen to lyrics of music. I know some people don't listen to lyrics at all. I listen to the lyrics. In fact, sometimes the lyrics can make or break a song for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, like it's not the end all be all. Like if there's bad lyrics but the song is really good, then like I'll probably still like it. But if the lyrics are just trash, right? Sometimes there's a tipping point in which the lyrics outweigh the other stuff of the song. Thankfully, most good music songs also have, you know, mid to good lyrics, so it's typically not a problem. But
okay.
Same with like if the lyrics are exceptional and they tell like a really good like story or something like that, but the music itself is, you know, whatever, then like I love it. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but there's a song called Carolina Drama by the Raconteurs, I think, and the song itself is like okay, but the story that the lyrics tell is really good, and so I like the song. But anyways, back to this.
Sounds like Normie music. I wouldn't know about it.
Yeah, back to this. I'd say this is another 8 out of 10 for me. The visuals were really understated, but this was my favorite song. Without this song, this would probably be like a 5 just visual wise, although this ending shot's really cool. But with this song, 8 out of 10 again. I really like the song.
Wow.
I know you
8 out of 10.
Yeah, dude,
Dang.
I like this style of music. I have a few songs like it in my music library as is.
Okay, interesting. You doubled my points for this one. That's crazy. I can't imagine liking this one this much, but all right.
Yeah, no, the music was good.
Okay, well, on to the review, shall we? All right, so George, I watched Gurren Lagann a decade ago, and I remember watching it in high school. And I watched the entire series in one day, I think, I'm pretty sure. That would be
Wow.
It's about 20 minutes per episode, and there's 27 episodes. That's 540 minutes divided by 60. That's 9 hours. So yeah, it probably sounds about right. So
Wow.
I watched the entire series in one day. I was so engrossed. And I remember being so exhausted by the end of it. I went to bed slightly early. And then someone had come over or something like late at night to our house. And I remember, this is the weirdest freaking thing ever, but I remember waking up, and when I would think thoughts, all I could see visually were like spirals. Like legitimately. I feel like
Okay.
I got so brain fricked from the show and consuming it so fast that I literally was affected in some way on some level by the spiral power in the show itself. And I was just totally blown away.
Okay.
I loved the show to death. It was absolutely freaking amazing. So
Yeah.
that was the initial impression that I had. And then coming into this, I was just like, all right, this is going to be like peak fiction, 10 out of 10, let's go. And I have to say, if we want to start with the first half of the show, I thought I was like, oh, maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe I was really just smitten because I was a high schooler at the time. Like, this isn't as good as I remember. Like, it's good, but it's not as good as I remember. I remember being amazing. So,
yeah, I had a similar reaction to the first half as well. Like, a lot of it was like, oh, this was a good episode. This was good. Like, if someone likes this kind of type of show, I guess, like, I'd say, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Having watched the second half, I can appreciate the first half much more because you kind of need it to really even have the second half at all. And so I think the second half was so good that it elevates the first half that much more. But yeah, the first half, like, it had kind of some silliness and stuff there. Lots of fan service, which, I mean, like,
I was
it
gonna
is
ask
what
you,
it is.
How do you feel about fan service in anime?
So, yeah, I guess my general view on it is this. Like,
Everyone's
against
watching, George. Everyone's listening. Everyone's leaning
I'm not
forward.
I'm not against hot and sexy characters like Yoko. Of course, she's hot and sexy and stuff. But it's like, it's the way it's portrayed. It feels, when it happens in anime, it feels very contrived. Like, really, who's going to be walking around in a bikini, like, shooting up beastmen? Like, that's just not really going to happen.
Yoko.
Right? And it, yeah, I guess. And, like, it's not even necessarily anime in any sort of thing that this would happen. Like, it breaks my immersion a little bit. I don't know why it doesn't necessarily as much in video games. I guess maybe because my suspension of disbelief in video games isn't necessarily tied to what my character looks like, especially in video games where I have control of the character's appearance. When someone else has a control of that in shows, it oftentimes feels very contrived, and it's just like trying to appease, a horny 13-year-old, and it's like, all right, bro, if that gets you off, man, more power to you, I guess. But I find it often very cringe because it's just like, bro, like, this is just unrealistic. They're going out of their way to, like, do things this way just to appease the horny fans. And, all right, I guess if people want that, more power to them. I'm not here to stop it. I'm just here to share that I find that kind of thing cringe. Well, at the same time, I appreciate when there's, like, hot and sexy characters. Like, I want them to be there, but I just want them to be portrayed in a more realistic way, right?
Okay.
Not necessarily
Can we
forced.
separate? Sure. Can we separate two things for a second? You talked about Yoko. You did something I wasn't expecting, but I want to kind of dissect this just a little bit. You talked about Yoko's appearance primarily when you talked about fan service. Now, I think typically when anime fans talk about fan service, it's not
the appearance per se that I was referencing, but sure, yeah. I'll let you finish what you're gonna ask.
Usually, anime fans are thinking fan service is more into the fact of, like, outfits is one thing for sure, but it's more like scenes or situations, right? Like certain camera angles or like
That's what I was referencing. There was a lot of that.
There was a lot of that. Yeah, personally,
like butt shots of her like bending over and her like boobs are like hanging down and you see the butt and like the hanging boobs and it's just like, bro, okay,
Bruh.
man, I know what you're trying to do, dude.
right?
And like,
Or like slow pans of her whole body,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the appearance is a factor. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I did say, who's gonna be running around in a bikini when you're fighting frickin' for your life? Like it wouldn't happen, right? But yeah, it's a combination of both. It's the looks and the scenes.
Right. Yeah, okay. Interesting. For me, I don't really care too much.
I'm sure you don't.
Shock! Yeah, like I think I never really thought too much about Yoko's outfit. Like it doesn't really matter to me too much. Like I think generally, by and large, the outfits don't generally ever matter to me too much as long as it's not like too ridiculous. And the setting for the first season or the first half of the season is like in the desert and in like this like big landscape. So for me, it was always like, okay, they're kind of out and about. Like Simon or Kamina doesn't really wear a shirt. Simon's wearing like shorts and stuff. So it seems like it's generally kind of a hot, arid area. And so I'm like, all right, she's in a bikini. It kind of makes sense. She's in short shorts. I don't care. Like it's obviously there because she's they're trying to make her, titillating, pun intended. And it's like, okay, fine. So it's both the setting for me and the fact that I don't really care too much about the fan service in design that it doesn't really bother me. There are probably other situations, like if they went to like a ball or something and she's wearing like still a bikini or something, it's like, okay, like, sure. But they sold me at least enough on the setting that I was okay with her outfit for pretty much the most.
How do you feel about the later part of the season then when they're in space and she pretty much still has a bikini?
Well, if you're talking about
bikini.
yeah, if you're talking about her space bikini outfit where she's on the ship, I hate that outfit because it looks like she's got like freaking triple G's on. And I'm just like not about that like larger than life kind of.
Oh my gosh.
That's the only thing I dislike about that outfit. I just think it's not a flattering outfit or look for her in general. If they had a different, like nicer revealing outfit, I'd probably be fine with that too. I would. Again, it doesn't really bother me overly, like from a design perspective. They're making a character like sexy, and that's like the whole point. Generally doesn't really bother me. So
yeah, I see it like almost akin to like if a character went to battle in a clown costume, like it's as equally as like immersion breaking for me, like both of those things. It's not necessarily the sexiness factor, it's the contrivance of it. Like I've said that word already, right? But it is what it is, right? Like it's intentionally overly sexy for the sake of appeasing the audience, right? And it's just like,
right.
All right, I can't separate that in my mind. Same thing, like I can't separate a girl not wearing, but a girl with cat ears and like maybe the rest of the appearance is the same. She's a cat, bro. It's literally a cat. Like you cannot convince me otherwise.
She's more girl than cat. How can you say that she's literally a cat?
It doesn't matter because
literally more girl than cat.
In my brain, I immediately go, well, this is not what she'd look like. This is ridiculous. This is impossible. This is dumb.
All right.
This is not
Let's
how it
not
works.
get caught up on the freaking cat girls, okay? We don't want to derail
No, but
this.
I'm trying to like make the connection so people can understand. Like it's just, I wish, I don't know. Whether I wish or don't doesn't matter. The fact remains, it's not something I can separate in my mind. It's not like I can be like, oh, well, she's here, in a bikini, but it's like whatever, right? Like you can continue on. I can continue on with the story, and I much enjoy Yoko as a character and the whole story as a whole. It's just the fact that it's like I can tell that this was less a decision of presenting a character and more that just happened to be sexy, and more so presenting something sexy that happens to be a main character.
It was clearly a
sense?
character that was engineered to be sexy.
Yes, engineered.
And
it's
then,
that engineered factor that I'm just like, I see through it, and I can't get past that factor.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. When there are characters, depending on the show, and you might be shocked by this, but if a character is like acting too cutesy, as if like you can tell that
I am shocked.
that it's being engineered to be too cute, then it's just like, nah, you can't. You gotta sell it to me in a more natural level. Now, my threshold for that is probably very different from yours because I consume a lot of cutesy anime type stuff.
Oh my gosh!
There are especially one big thing is like edginess. If a character's trying to be like really cool and edgy, you really got to sell that to me properly, or I'm really not into it. My cutoff for stuff like that is super low. I'm just like, nope. Eminence and Shadow, which you have no idea what the frick that is, but that's like a show that I watched the first episode and I just couldn't do it. It's super freaking edgy. The main character is just like, it's like edgy 9000. We'll probably, hopefully not watch that on the channel one day. But yeah, it's pretty popular. There's a lot of people who like it, but I was not a fan. I would be interested to see what your take is on it, because it's very much like, it's like campiness, but anime, and it's like edge camp. Yeah, it's very strange.
I'd have to see. Yeah, I have different thresholds for all that stuff. Like someone trying to act cutesy, like the threshold is like if we're 1 in 1,000, it's like 1, dude. Like I get so annoyed by stuff like that so quick because it's just like engineered. No actual character would act this way, and it just an anime. Why? I don't freaking know. They just make them do this crap.
That's the best part, George.
No, dude, I can't. The edginess stuff, again, my threshold for that is kind of low too. It's almost like they're trying too hard to be cool.
Right.
Yeah,
because they do such a great job of selling that in Gurren Lagann about characters being so cool. But I want to stay on this topic. I don't want to get to the second part too quickly. I want to stay on this topic for just a second more, because I was thinking that the other thing is when it comes to sexy outfits, a lot of it for me is also context, right? They sold me on the Yoko context based on the theme. And if they were doing like, if this was like Vinland Saga, right, which is much more grounded, and we saw a female character go into battle with like a chainmail bikini, I'd be like, no. That can't happen. Like, this is too absurd. It's too ridiculous. I don't care how sexy it is, right? That would be out for me, right? But for this, it worked. Or like in One Piece, there's a gladiator character, but she is wearing like a chainmail bikini. But in the greater context of all of the One Piece characters, it's just like, yeah, I believe it. There's so many freaking random designs. I totally believe. And it's not so focused on like the groundedness of that. I'm not thinking like, oh no, she's not going to be protected in her armor. It's like, bro, Luffy fights with freaking shorts and a jacket on. I'm not thinking about people's vulnerability spots. I assume that characters will get hit when they get hit, and that's just kind of how it goes. Right? So for me, it really is context, and I just have a higher threshold in general. So
yeah, for me too, it's not necessarily so much like the groundedness of, oh no, this character's not properly protected stuff. Like, I know I said that, like, who'd be fighting gunmen in a bikini, but I meant more so like on the, how you stated, the engineered side. Almost like, to be honest, if they'd been able, if I could tell that this was like just the natural way the character came up and she was fighting gunmen topless, like, that wouldn't bother me if it was presented to me in a natural way, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, it's the engineered factor that I'm just like,
So
I see it.
They need to explain why she has to take her shirt off in order to fight. Okay, great.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, there's like, you know, tribes or whatever that are like topless, right? And if it was something like that or
George,
whatever,
don't you worry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? It's just that. And so when something like that's presented to me, I can't I can't.
Yes.
I can't see past that and like appreciate completely what they're trying to do.
Yeah, the character design.
Yeah, exactly. But now Yoko as like a character herself, like what she does for the team and all that stuff, yeah, totally fine.
She's a
like
full
I
character.
like Yoko.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
good character.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that factor.
Yeah, makes sense. The other thing is for me is there's these scenes and the contexts, right? Outside of the design, there's the like butt shots and the boob shots, and even, you know, it didn't happen in this anime. Well, it kind of did at some certain points, like characters falling into the boobs of another character. Or,
yeah, like Utah would do on, or Buta rather, not
Buta,
Utah.
right?
Buta.
Like those kind of scenes bother me more than design. Those seem more contrived to me. It's like, okay, Buta climbed into her cleavage. I was like, sure, for sure. Or like there was a scene in episode 1 where like Yoko grabs Simon because like the gunmen have arrived for the first time and she pulls him close to protect him. But of course it's like right in her boobs, right? And it's just like, oh, all right, for sure. Or like she's leaning down in a provocative way and the camera angles, like you said, like the hanging and just everything's there. Yes, I have much less tolerance for that. I don't, it doesn't like ruin my experience because I see it and I'm like, it's not a bad view. But if I could choose and like have something like, could we can have the same kind of, almost the same kind of levels of titillation from a sexy design, but with like more reasonable camera angles that are just like, okay, well, this clearly wasn't contrived and engineered in a sense to be like in your face sexy. It's just like sexy by the venue kind of thing. It's just the fact that the character's there is enough, right? Let's be classy about it, right? We've talked about this a little bit in some of our Vinland Saga videos that should be coming up. That, you know, there's like a certain class that you want to have when you're portraying certain things, right? You can have violence and you can have sexiness, but let's do it in a classy way, right? Let's do it in a way that conveys some kind of level of expertise when you're telling a story.
Yeah. Yeah, I find, or those scenes I find even more contrived as well than the design itself. But it's like almost a difference of like swimming in 6 foot deep water versus 10 foot deep water. Like I'm submerged either way. So like at a certain point, it's like you can keep going and it's just like, you know, it's a drop in the bucket, so to speak. Right. So yeah, no, but I feel the same way when I saw those shots. It's like, bro, okay. I can see what you're trying to do, man. And like, I guess, right. I think another difference between you and me, and we've had this like off the channel discussion sometimes, is I think you appreciate the sexiness of anime girls more so than I do. Yes.
Just a little bit.
I can appreciate it. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, if there's a hot character, she's hot, right? Anime or not. But I don't want to get too much into those details. Maybe someday, if enough people want us to talk about it, we can discuss our differences with that. But yeah, like, I'm much more so on the fact that people even call it this is so ridiculous to me. 3D girls? Really? I mean, you mean real women? Like, come on, man. What is this 3D, 2D? One is real, one does not exist.
One is peak fiction, and the other is 3D.
Bro, yes. Reality, okay?
I don't deal with reality, bro.
Live.
What part of peak fiction do you not understand?
Yeah, but anyways, I think that's another difference between you and me, how we like perceive Yoko, and like not just Yoko, but characters like her and that whole aspect of anime.
The waifu culture.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, okay, so this brings us to, I want to start transitioning to the second half of season 2, but one thing I wanted to kind of relay was, as for all of the first half's flaws, I think if you imagine starting the second half from scratch, you just started watching it, so all of a sudden you're just inundated with like this city. It's like a sci-fi borderline city. They've got some slightly future tech. And then out of nowhere, a robot ship enemy shows up and starts like shooting stuff. And you're just like, oh, okay, so there's like alien enemies, right? That would
Yeah.
generally be my reaction is like, oh, okay, so there's like some enemies, they've just popped up. And I'd be like, okay, cool. And then, they destroy them and they explode. I'm like, oh, they explode. Oh, that's crazy. That sucks. Like, what the heck? But because there's the context of coming from like basically a village and we've worked our way up, having this thing teleport in, something we've not even seen anything remotely like. And it's like a weird shape more than anything we've ever seen, and has destructive power that we've never seen. And then it explodes into bombs, and it's like, oh my freaking gosh, what is going on? Like, what happened to the simple times, right? It's that kind of switch that happens that really sells the second half, I think, in a way that you would never be able to sell it. Because, like, then it scales up, because it scales from a little village to we're now fighting on top of galaxies, right? And I think they had that progression from caveman to ultra sci-fi, that it hits so much harder.
Yeah, and like, not to say you couldn't have had a Kamina character that played what Kamina's role was in the second half, like, right, if that was the starting point. But it's the combination of starting at the very bottom, and yet starting at the very bottom, the Kamina character is like, bro, we're piercing the sky, we're piercing the heavens. And it's like, dude, the faith you have in Simone is insane. Like, we're digging tunnels underground, man. What are you talking about going to the freaking moon? Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand, right? So it's that. Do
you think that would have that evolution would have hit harder if you didn't have the scene at the beginning when they're on the ship? Do you think it would have been even more wild of like, I can't believe we got here. I can't believe we're here doing this right now.
Yes, it would have hit harder, but I think the beginning scene fit a different purpose, which was to really intrigue you in the more mundane way the show starts out. It really helped tie me over, because I was like, like I said, it was like good, but I was like holding out so often to like, bro, I know what this could get. What is going to happen? How are we going to get there?
Interesting.
Right? So yeah, the effect probably would have been bigger, but I think the show would have suffered overall by taking away that anticipation of like what's to come.
Yeah, I'm freaking so on the fence. I'm not sure, because like I kind of agree with what you're saying. The first half of the season can be a little bit more difficult to get through because it does seem a little bit more mundane. That's probably a good way of putting it. But at the same time, like, does knowing what is going to come, does that cause you to, does that cause some of the intensity, the shock of the fact that we make it so far to be slightly less than it could have been? I don't know.
It is. The intensity of the thing. Yeah, exactly. I think the trade-off is worth it. I think, because like some shows are about finding out what's happening, and other shows are about like, how do we get there? All right, I know what's happening at the end. It's nothing like this, but while we were watching the show, I likened that technique to one of my favorite movies, Hacksaw Ridge. And it shows in the beginning a scene towards the end of the movie, almost like the very end of the movie.
Okay.
And the hardship that the guy suffers in the first half of the movie, you're just like, bro, like, knowing that he somehow gets to point X helps you bear the burden of what's happening in the beginning. Because otherwise you just be like, okay, I can't take this. I'm done. This guy
too much.
This guy has the worst luck ever, right? So yeah, it's a tool. It's an effective tool. I think you just got to use it right. And for me, the trade-off was worth it, because a lot of times I was like, I even said in the show, like, I'm just holding out till we get to, to that point that they showed in the beginning, especially in the points where it was just like, and I see now why they presented it this way, and I think this is really the only way they could have presented, but spiral power in the beginning was not explained. And a lot of the problem resolution was simply, oh, we just got to try harder. We just got to believe more. And I was like,
right.
Okay. Like, I even complained about it a lot in the beginning, because I was thinking to myself, okay, none of the stakes seem real, because I know that at the very end, they're just going to believe a little bit more, and they're going to, power through and stuff.
Okay, so two things to that. One, they did tease it a little bit that it was connected to Simon's emotions to some degree, right?
Yes,
Was that
yeah.
not enough for you to kind of
It's
see
not.
it? Was it the
Not the
same
fact.
thing as like essentially just trying harder in your mind, or was it not separate enough?
Yeah, it's not the fact that it was tied to Simone's emotions or not. It was the fact that every conflict resolution ended the same way, right? It was always like, we're just trying harder. We're just trying harder.
Right.
And without knowing the context, it lacks some of the oomph that the second half of the season has.
Yeah, so that's my next question was, explain to me because from my perspective, I didn't mind the beginning part where it was like that, but I don't see a difference with the second part that was like that. It's like, it's the same to me. They're literally just doing the same thing that you complained about in the first half.
What happens in the second half for me is it's not even like they quantify it because it's still kind of arbitrary. It's like they're just trying harder, but it's like an actual technique, an actual in-world power, right? It's almost as if like it goes from a just trying harder just because to like harnessing the potential within you and using that to overcome. It's like, it's not that big of a difference when you think about it technically, but it's enough to flip me over to be like, okay, I see, I understand now.
So it's the representation of like, so before in the first half, it was just like, come on, Simon, you got to get in a good mood so you can try harder and win. To the second half being like, okay, like I know you have to be in a good mood per se, but it's like, I know that you're now harnessing a power through that. You're kind of channeling something that's fine enough of a change.
And it's also the fact that like just like not giving up is less so just the act of not giving up, but it's like the power of your potential. I don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to like state it better. The first half, it felt a lot of it felt to me as if they were just resolving a conflict just because, right? They were like saying like, oh, we're going to get you to the edge, but don't worry. At the end, they're just going to try hard and it'll like magically solve itself. It's almost like a Deus Ex Machina without the actual intervention of a third party. It was just like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like I'm interested in how it'll play out, but I know at the end they're just gonna try harder. Like it doesn't really matter. Sure. The second half of the season, it's you got to try harder, but this is the difference. You got to try harder, but there is actively a force of despair working against you. And quantifying the you gotta try harder into spiral power, knowing that there is the force of hope and despair fighting against each other. And it's not just, oh, we have this like physical enemy and we just gotta try harder and we'll beat them. It's more so we got an equal but opposite emotional force, and it's those two kind of forces clashing with each other.
In part one, it was just like, we're losing a physical fight. We just need to fight and believe harder and we can win. Right? So it's kind of like, okay, why didn't we just try and win and fight harder at the beginning?
Yeah.
Whereas
why didn't you go in with the intent to win, right? It's
right,
kind of
exactly. It's weird.
Yeah.
But then in part two, it's like you're like sympathizing in effect with the characters because they're trying to overcome something that's more than just a physical fight. It's that kind of like despair that they're layering on, either killing characters or just upping the stakes to like, okay, it's not just
galactic levels.
Yeah, to a galactic level. It's not just like an army of spaceships you're fighting. There's also the liquid now that's like sapping your power. And then now they're pushing you down. And, we have to go deeper. So we're getting compressed now. So there's like different things rather than just like a straight fight that the characters are dealing with. And they have to find somehow to gain hope despite this like despaired situation, and then that's where they gain the spiral power, and then they win. So it is kind of like a more intricate battle that's happening. It's just playing out in a emotional despair kind of level than like a physical fight, which is more kind of straightforward, 1-to-1, very easy, much easier to understand.
Yeah, the latter half of the season, while also quantifying spiral power, it really is just they had the physical fight and the emotional fight, and you couldn't win the physical fight without first overcoming on the emotional side. Whereas in the first half, it was just like,
it was mostly physical fighting.
Moon. Yeah, but it was mostly like physical, and it's just like, I now believe that I can win, and
That's
so now
true.
I overcome physically.
Okay, you
right?
know what?
It was just
that does it for me too, actually, because you're right. The physical fights on either side, taking scale aside, were basically the same, right? It was just a physical combat. However, the emotional things that happened on the second half, like the situations of like overwhelming force and like the moon coming down and the liquid and just like things that's just like so difficult to quantify versus like, I mean, I don't want to diminish this in any way, but like Kamina dies and, you know, he's really depressed, which is probably the worst example I could possibly use, because that's probably the best example of overcoming despair in the first half. But rather, you know, there was one where they were fighting underwater, and the despair on that one was just like, we're losing a physical fight, right? That was basically, that's not a very good emotional situation for our characters to overcome, because it's really mostly the physical fight side and just a little bit of this emotional side. And the victory to this and overcoming this was just like, I believe we can do it. I believe we can win this physical fight. And then it wasn't
and then
really
they would
more
win.
than that. Right, and then they'd win. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then looking back now, like with the context of the second half, I can appreciate the first half much more, because it wasn't necessarily, simply, we have to win. It was actually them harnessing their spiral power.
Right.
It still doesn't have the same impact that having, you know, parallel emotional and physical fights going on at the same time that the second half season does. But yeah, like I can appreciate it more. I think what makes and breaks this show is not even necessarily just the second half, but like the last third. The last third was so good. And you can't have it without the first 2/3. And so I appreciate them for that. But yeah, the last third,
insane.
That was so good.
Yeah,
that was
insane.
really, really good.
Do you think you could make the first 2/3 as good as the last third if you were to remake the show? Do you think you could have your cake and eat it too with a show like this?
I think you could. It'd be hard.
Right. Or do you think it's because the first 2/3, if we broke it into those thirds, right? The first third is like the lowest, you know, it's still good, but then the second third is like, okay, more intrigue, more interest, and then the last third is like, whoa, this is hella hype. Do you think it's because it escalates?
Well, actually, now that you mention it, like, could you make, when I said you could, I was essentially answering the question in my mind, can you make the first 2/3 better? And I think you could. Like, there probably is a plausible way in which you can make it better. However, can you make it as good as the last third? I don't think so, because that's the climax of everything. Right?
That's not what I meant in terms of climax. I'm just talking about like quality, overall quality and stuff.
Okay,
I'm just saying,
can you make the first
climax
2/3
so good? Not just because it's the climax. Let's take the narrative stuff aside. I'm just saying, is the climax so good because the first other 2/3 aren't as good from a quality perspective, from a storytelling, from the setting, from what's happening in the plot, blah blah blah.
Separating the climax, I think you could make all 3/3 equally as good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would be done.
Exactly. Like, it'd be incredibly hard, but like, I'm trying to think, like, there's got to be a way, right? Like, there's got to be someone who's skilled enough at storytelling to elevate those
sections. Not that like I'm advocating for anything like that. I'm just wondering like what could have been.
Yeah, it's a good thought exercise for sure. Yeah, no, I think you could. But that said, like, whether you could or you couldn't, the fact remains that they help elevate the last third. And it
Right.
would not be possible without them. And the last third is so good.
Peak.
I freaking loved it, man. I love I don't know, man. Like this like hope and persevering against all odds. Anyone who knows me or watches any of our other stuff knows I love honorable knights. Like just the lawful good knight that just doesn't give up. Like, many people hate on characters like that, call them like Mary Sue's or whatever. Like, I forget what the term is for. Yeah, I call them boring and stuff. And there is a boring way to portray those characters. But those like chivalrous attributes of like honor and hope and like not giving up and all that stuff. Dude, I love stuff like that. And Simone in the last third was the epitome of that. Like, he was just a good dude. And he believed, and no one else would believe as much as he did, and he just wouldn't give up. He'd get hit, they'd get hit with the despair and whatever, and he'd find a way to break through. That one scene with Kamina where he comes back, and he basically, all the characters have closure with him, and it's literally the Simone and Kamina scene is literally Kamina passing the torch finally, completely to Simone. And he's like, here you go, man. You keep going. He's like, I guess this is goodbye. And he's like, no, man, this is not goodbye. You're right here. You're in my heart.
Seeing them both as adults
so
is
perfect.
like, it's just beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. And it like this goes part of to what we were saying about, how the first 2/3 build it so well, build the last third, because it was what Kamina meant to Simone and like the span of time that he went without him. Like, he lived his whole life pretty much. He spent more time without Kamina than he did with. And it was just, it like came full circle because like he held on to what his ideal of Kamina was. And like, yeah, I guess you could say technically it happened in his mind still, but it was more than that. It was like really the spirit of Kamina coming back and like saying like, bro, you held up to what I taught you, like all these years by yourself. And I don't know, there's so many layers to that scene. It was so good.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Easily one of the best, if not the best scene in the whole show, for sure.
Yes,
absolutely.
100%.
And you know what? Simon, for all his never giving up, he got the reward he deserved, right, George?
That is my biggest issue with the show. So this is why they spend the whole show. Well, maybe not necessarily the whole show, but a huge portion of the show of laying down the theme of snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Right? They laid it out. Sometimes they even said it outright.
Yes.
That was a huge theme in the show. And they go through this whole thing. And at the very end, once the quote unquote victory was achieved, they totally go against the own theme that they built. And they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. As in a vacuum, Nia dying wouldn't bother me. If it was a different kind of show, it wouldn't bother me. It's the fact that this goes against the theme of... Have you heard of the sudden downer trope? It's a TV or show or book ending trope. It's one of the tropes. So everybody dies trope, whatever. The sudden downer trope is a trope where everything seems to be going up and then boom, things fall apart at the very end for either the main character or the main characters or a whole cast of characters and all that stuff. Usually that is done in stories where like they're trying to show that life is not happy, right? Like life is hard and it's difficult and it's random. If this was that kind of show, I'd be like, okay, like that sucks. I hate the fact that Simone can't get his happy ending, but it wouldn't have bothered me as much because I would have known like this is this show with this kind of theme. Right?
But weren't they doing that the whole time? Weren't they constantly having this things are going great and then having the drop off?
No, it's a different kind of show. The show where like the sudden downer ending fits is more so like consistently like things suck kind of for the characters.
So it's like a consistent downer all the time.
Yeah, and like there's like peaks, right? And then valleys, peaks and valleys.
But isn't
peaks
that
and
how
valleys.
the show was? They were doing really good and fighting, and all of a sudden something terrible happens and they're losing.
No, they were winning most of the time. Like things were going up for them a lot. Like there were struggles. Sorry, not winning, but it wasn't necessarily that like it wasn't portraying life as crappy and random. They had struggles along the way, but that's different than a show that portrays just the ugliness of real life. Does that make sense? Like this wasn't a show about that.
Okay.
This was a different kind of show. This was a show about hope and overcoming odds, and if you try and you persevere, you will win in the end.
Okay. See, I thought you were gonna have a different rebuttal to that question. I thought you were gonna say like, yes, it's going up, and then they have those moments where things suck, but the whole point of the show was to then turn around and overcome that to even greater heights. And then you go up to those greater heights and you come down again, and then you go up again to even more greater heights. I thought that's how you would rebuttal that. But
well, yeah, I mean, the show did that, but there's a difference between like difficulties and obstacles to overcome versus the themes that you're building in a story, right? And like even in a story, like you can't, even like in the happiest stories, you need some sort of conflict, otherwise it's not a story, right? Like
Sure.
I went to the store, like, you know, what's the conflict there? Like whatever, right? Like I went to the store, I bought some bananas, and I came home. The end. Like that's not a story, right? You got to have some conflict. So the conflict aside, I'm talking about the themes that the show portrayed to you, which is,
interesting.
Snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Nia dying is literally the opposite. It's working against the themes the show built. It's snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. They'd won. They beat the anti-spiral race. Peace was returning to Earth. Simone was getting, the praise he got. And in my opinion, a better ending would have been him. I still liked that he handed the reins off to somebody else. He gave Rosu the reins. It's like, listen, man, I fought the good fight. I'm done. Whatever happens from here on out is for you and the rest of humanity and the rest of the spiral races to decide. But I am done. My time in this story is over. That part was still good. I even wouldn't have minded if he remained some obscure man in some random village, because that's not what he was fighting for. He wasn't fighting for the fame and the glory.
Right.
But it was the fact that he couldn't get his end with Nia. That brings the show down a peg. I would have given the show, high praises through and through, and I still do. Like, it's still a fantastic show, but
the ending
that was disappointing.
It's funny, for being a total normie, non-shipper, don't give too much of a frick about anime girls. I was genuinely shocked that you were so upset about Nia and Simon not having their happy ending. I mean, shocked in a good way, but I was surprised.
For me, it's not necessarily about the shipping and all that stuff. It's more so the fact of like what this story is, right? Like, he deserved his happy ending.
Yeah,
he needed. He needed to be off.
I see it from the opposite way, that Nia deserves her happy ending. But I gotcha.
Sure. Yeah, like, and it was like they didn't have to do it this way. They could have. There's so many ways they could have written themselves out of this.
I think it was a spoiled ending for spoil ending's sake. That's it. Yeah. I think they just said, we'll just make it, for shock value or for something. I think it was totally inappropriate the way that they did it. We've talked about this at the end of that episode, so people can check our full thoughts, immediate thoughts there. But yeah, I agree. He should have been with Nia, and they can do whatever the frick else they want after that. They go become exiles. They live in the forest, whatever. They should have been together, and it just literally makes no sense other than putting a bad taste in your mouth at the end.
Yep.
There's another show that we'll watch on this channel. I'll just say it's about a katana. We're going to get to it one day. I don't want to give it too much away, but it's about a katana, and it does something similar to that. And I remember getting hit so hard because this ending didn't hit me as hard. It's sad, but I remember being so upset at the end of this other show that it was just, oh man, I was in a bad way for a couple days at least. It really messed me up.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I don't think like ending a show like this is the way to go. Like I don't like I'm all for like having bad things happening and for things to be downerish and whatnot. I'm totally fine with that. In fact, I think it adds kind of flavor to a story. But ending a story like this with no like continuation of a happy ending, you know, I think stories need generally happy endings unless you're planning to continue, you know, from a bad ending to another happy ending later. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind the sad, bad ending. Like, even just when it happens and it ends bad and sad and everyone's like no better off or maybe even worse off than they were in the beginning. It's just, what kind of story is this? Right? Like, what kind of story am I sitting in to watch?
Sure.
Like, grim, dark fantasy, a lot of those books end with characters worse off than when they started. But the journey is so intriguing that it's enjoyable, right? But the characters themselves, they fail at the emotional and maturity growth, if that's how you even say it, that they should have had because they're inherently flawed characters. And so by their own misactions, most of the time they have like a sad ending or a bad ending, right? That doesn't bother me because it's like, all right, you know, like this is what this story was about. It's the fact that's why I said like in a vacuum, Nia dying wouldn't have bothered me. It's the fact of what this show was building.
Right.
Yes.
It's all the pieces, the show and the theme and this and that. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it's definitely a controversial point for sure. It's disappointing.
Yeah. But
George,
that said, the show was great. I'm glad we watched
show.
it. Especially for the last 1/3. That was just so hype. So good. And yeah,
I do have a question for you though.
Okay.
Have you forgiven Rusyu?
I have.
Okay.
I have. Yeah.
Okay.
He was dumb and he made mistakes, but he realized his mistake and overcame them.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yes, I've forgiven Rosu.
All right, that's what I wanted to know. That's about it, man. I mean,
and
what
I
else
do
can you
think
say?
I do think he's the right man for the job of uniting the spiral races and evading the destruction that, you know, the anti-spiral races said would come.
Sure. And he did find that ship that they took to space and used to get into the moon to then turn that into a giant ship, right? To be fair.
Yes.
Without his actions, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I think the main thing too with Rosu is that as arrogant as he was, he legitimately thought he was doing what humanity needed.
Did you expect that? Did you expect that he was like earnest, or did you think he was turning villainous?
I feared that he was turning villainous, but I hoped that he was earnest. And it turned out he was earnest, and that's, you know, that's something you can forgive when faced with utter destruction, right? Like, how many of us wouldn't have done a similar thing? So,
yeah,
I like to say that I wouldn't have, and we would have gone down fighting. But this is me sitting watching a fictional show in the comfort of my home with AC and stuff like that. So,
absolutely. Yeah. What did you think about the evolution of Viral as a character?
I loved it. I was hoping for after a while, and it seems like Simone was the narrator because that's what the old man Simone voice was. But I was hoping it would be Viral who was the narrator. I think that would have been personally, well, because I didn't want the ending for Simone that he had. So personally, I wish Viral would have been the narrator and he would have been telling people about this like heroic figure who like disappeared after the battle and he's like living somewhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I love that. I think just everything with Viral was so awesome. He always is kind of a character that you love to hate, and then he became a character that you love to love. So he's such a cool rival character.
Yeah, he won me over. I don't remember which fight it was, but he showed honor. He wanted to fight somebody.
It was the fight with the bird general, and they were fighting in the
Yes.
ship, and he held Yoko hostage, the general did, and then he told
Yes.
Viral to kill Simon
Yeah.
while the hostage was there, right? And then he wouldn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's when he won me over. That moment, I was like, all right,
Yep.
listen, he's a principled person who thinks what he's doing is right, and he just happens to be on the other side of the protagonist.
Yep.
Awesome character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that was the moment he won me over. No, the characters were all good. Kitan was great. He went out with a bang. Right at the moment that I thought his death, as much as I hate it because I like the character, I thought that his death was well executed because he reached his journey, right? He reached the end of his journey, and no better time to go out than then, aside from never going out. But if you're gonna go out, that's the time to do it.
Yeah, his character arc actually, like, I was not expecting his character arc to really go anywhere. I thought he was always going to be this like knockoff Wish Kamina at home kind of guy.
Yeah.
And then he really had like they really brought his character arc to like completion. And they didn't do that for a lot of characters. And it was pretty cool. I think it was a great send off to a good character.
Yeah. Yeah, and then some of the other character sacrifices, like, it sucks because I'm tied to the characters' cause. But some of them, like, I didn't connect with them. It sucks that they died, but it was like a good way to show, like, bro, the stakes are rising. This is you guys have an uphill battle and stuff like that.
Especially because they didn't really have any deaths before then, right? It really did help elevate the stakes than ever before.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've I don't know what else to say. I think we've talked ourselves dry on all the stuff we have to say.
It's a great classic. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad that for the both of us, it really picked up at the second half and especially the last third. Yeah, just as great as I remember, maybe more so, because I think some of the kind of like messaging and whatnot really went over my head. I just thought it was all so cool. So this really helped me.
The animation was great.
Yeah,
some of the transformations. Like walking on galaxies, just like from a spectacle perspective, it's
insane.
Just insane. Yeah, dude,
yeah,
so
totally
good.
Insane. Yeah, so there was some beauty in the show that I had never really seen before. That I really appreciated this time around. So I'm glad we watched it again.
Same. I'm glad we did.
Nice.
Okay, well, this show was actually picked by our community members.
True.
That's why we ended up watching it. The next one we're watching, our community anime, is Vinland Saga. But if you guys want to vote on what comes after that, check out our Patreon and our YouTube channel membership. But with that, we'll see you guys next time.
See you, everybody.
Take care.